On December 30th last year, Cristiano Ronaldo joined Saudi Arabian club Al Nassr on a 2.5-year deal worth around $200 million per year, making him the highest paid footballer of all time. During this period, people criticised him for jumping ship to the Middle East, and described him as finished, an ultimately embarrassing way for one of the best footballers of all time to go out. However, since then, numerous players have decided to follow Ronaldo to play in the Saudi Pro League, with players such as Kante, Ruben Neves, and even the current Ballon d'Or holder Karim Benzema being taken out of Europe to instead earn contracts worth hundreds of millions each season in Saudi Arabia. Under the spotlight of football fans across the globe, the mass have criticised the Saudi team's approaches to persuade players with massive paying contracts, which the majority of other teams in the world cannot afford to do, with fans claiming that no one can compete with Saudi Arabia. So the question is, are Saudi Arabia destroying football? The first thing we need to highlight is what Saudi Arabia's intention is. In January 2016, the government of Saudi Arabia announced the Saudi Vision 2030, a strategic framework which had been designed to reduce Saudi Arabia's economic dependence on oil. And to do this, they have made investments in several other sectors to diversify their economy. In particular, the Public Investment Fund has recently focused on the investment of football, with the PIF taking majority ownership over 4 of the best Saudi Arabian football clubs, as well as acquiring Newcastle in October 2021. While Newcastle remains under strict regulations set by UEFA, limiting the amount they could invest in a specific period, Saudi Arabian football has no limits to how much they can spend, giving them unlimited power on how much they can offer some of the best talents in the world to join their league. The highest earner in the Premier League, Kevin De Bruyne, earns £400,000 per week, and Jordan Henderson, who's rumoured to be joining Saudi side Al Ettifaq, could potentially be earning over £700,000 per week. This, as well as the fact many clubs must adhere to financial regulations set by UEFA and their respective leagues, makes it extremely difficult for sides across the world to prevent their players from wanting to leave and join these Saudi Arabian clubs. Even if the clubs were to reject these offers, it could still cost them greatly, as they could be forced into signing new high-wage contracts with the player in compensation for not allowing them to leave. This situation can also stunt the progression made by certain teams across the world, in particular up-and-coming teams, as since many of them can't contest the finances offered by Saudi Arabian football clubs, teams can lose their best players for suboptimal fees, and this can set them back greatly. Another issue that is caused from the aggressive growth of Saudi Arabian football is the fact that they are inflating the transfer market. While Saudi clubs have signed players for free, such as Roberto Firmino signing for Al Ahly, N'Golo Kante to Al Ittihad and Karim Benzema also to Al Ittihad, they have also signed players for big fees, such as Ruben Neves to Al Hilal, Marcelo Brozovic to Al Nassr, Jota to Al Ittihad, and Sergei Milinkovic-Savic to Al Hilal. There are also rumours surrounding the futures of Thomas Partey, Hakim Ziyech, Wilfried Zaha, Fabinho, and many more. Due to their high offers for players, certain teams, in particular ones with players of interest of not only Saudi Arabian clubs, but also other teams in general, are beginning to up their evaluation for their players, and this causes the market to change slightly, as players gradually become more and more expensive to the point in which normal clubs cannot afford to compete with the Saudi clubs. Fan bases across the world have also gone ahead and criticised the transfer fees which Saudi clubs are offering for the players they want. Teams such as Chelsea and Wolves have directly benefited from the transfer fees they have brought in from Saudi clubs, with Chelsea in particular offloading fringe players such as Koulibaly and Mendy for a total of nearly £40 million, giving them money which they most likely wouldn't have recouped on these players, as they would have either gone for less or left on a free transfer at the end of their contract. This has caused controversy among Premier League fan bases, not only because Chelsea are improving the Saudi Pro League while receiving large transfer fees for subpar players, but also because the Public Investment Fund who own these clubs in Saudi Arabia also has a large investment into the company which owns Chelsea, therefore raising the question whether Chelsea are using another loophole to avoid FFP. Despite the PIF having proved to the Premier League that they have no direct ownership over Chelsea, fans have become suspicious over the investment and raised the argument that it's unfair that Chelsea can spend £600 million on some of the best up-and-coming stars in Europe, and then suspiciously offload fringe players they don't need anymore for money above their market value. Another issue highlighted by clubs all across Europe, but in particular the Premier League, is the acquisition of Newcastle and how successful they could become. Following qualifying for the Champions League last season, their combined transfer fees for players coming into the club since last season has exceeded £250 million, with their recent signing of Sandro Tonali for around £55 million. And for a team who only 2 seasons ago were fighting against relegation from the Premier League, this is astounding progress. However, the question people are asking is whether this is fair or not. It's a controversy sparked among every fan base in the Premier League. Why are a team like Newcastle allowed to spend upwards of £250 million, and whether it's fair or not? But the truth is that as long as Newcastle comply with financial regulations, then what they're doing is completely fine under the rulebooks, even if they are being funded by a public investment fund, which are richer than every single Premier League club combined. And it's not like what Newcastle appear to be doing isn't something we haven't seen from other teams in the Premier League before either. Chelsea with Abramovich and Manchester City with Sheikh Mansour are both prime examples of what Newcastle are doing now, except Newcastle haven't won anything as of yet. And it highlights major hypocrisy that some of the Premier League's fan base can normalise Man City and Chelsea for their success, because they're a Big Six club, but when Newcastle try to do it as well, it's unethical and unfair to the teams around them. The takeover of Newcastle has begun contesting the typical dominance of the Big Six in the Premier League, and it's starting to make the league more competitive and entertaining for everyone watching. So while certain fan bases may originally oppose the idea of Saudi Arabian investment into football, it may pose a greater outcome for the league's future. Should you be worried or excited for the future of football? That's your decision. But one thing everyone can agree on is that there will be a lot of change in the future for the world of football. Thank you for watching this video. If you have enjoyed, please like and subscribe and comment which videos you would like to see next.